What's Next Network Call to Action. We're going to bring up Marisa. She's going to tell us a little bit more about action teams. Mike's going to do a summary of all of the excellent feedback we've gotten on the, your clicker's up there, on the next big thing inputs, and then we're going to end with the Trailblazer. We started with the Trailblazer, end with the Trailblazer. Ashley, go.
This is cool. I haven't been up here before. This is my third forum, so I'm really excited to be here. I'm so excited to be at this part of this forum experience. I get to say, so what, okay? You sat here for 2 days, your brains are full. All right, maybe you're sitting in there and you're just absolutely boggled. What are you going to do with all this information that you're now thinking about? I want you to try to sit and remember all the way back a day and a half ago to when Mike opened us up, and we're thinking about who is the network. You are the network, right? Even if you haven't been to one of these events before, you are now part of the network. So it's really up to all of us here and outside of this room to decide what comes next for Floodmar. Just a quick reminder, this little graphic we threw up before, it's all of us working together, giving and getting in return. Okay, great. So you've heard a few times throughout the forum a reference to these action teams, which are a component of this graphic. So Floodmar Network as a whole, you have entities kind of checking in on the sidelines, you have some people trying to steer the ship, and then you've got these little circles that we call initiative or action teams and learning circles. These are groups of people that come out of events like this and decide that they want to do something together. Maybe produce a product, maybe just kind of bounce their ideas around, share resources. And typically we try to keep them motivated towards a specific goal. So, do you want to try to get something done in a certain timeline? So typically we work on these 1 to 2 year timelines. If there's enough consensus around an idea, if, as a result of this conference, people are thinking, I really want to connect with this person about this topic. We started to talk about this, but we didn't get to finish our conversation out on the patio because we were told we were being too loud, those kinds of conversations. That's what we get to sit here and talk about a little bit. So right now there are 6 action teams that have been meeting with a little bit of administrative support from the network. So you've heard from some of these. There are a couple of resources available. I forgot to bring a copy up with me, but at your tables, there is the draft estimating recharge fact sheet. And if you don't have a copy of that at your table, there should be a copy of a one-sheet paper that has a QR code where you can scan it and go to see the full fact sheet. There's a few more of those individual sheets over there, but no more fact sheets. So you could kind of hunt and see what table might have it remaining. So that is there, and there's a few other efforts. I'm actually, forgot I have a slide about this. So the estimating recharge team is working to identify those best approaches. For estimating recharge, like Graham said yesterday, it's hard because you can't see the damn stuff. I get to curse a little bit. He said that, not me. Okay. So water quality is sort of leveraging some of the conversations that we were having this morning related to managing or mitigating contaminants under flooded conditions. And there is in development a white paper that I believe was also referenced in one of the presentations. In-stream flows, the third group I'll talk about, is working to consider how to balance recharge water with in-stream ecological needs during project operations. In development there is a case study. And for the incentives for recharge, sort of leveraging some of the work that you heard them mention just now, they're working on an inventory repository. Definitely get in touch if you have ideas for things to add to that. Assessing policy, the goal there is to explore ways to further leverage opportunities or address barriers for effective state support and coordination. And then the Network Hub website, if you are sort of tech-minded, maybe you want to help in this way, is kind of in perpetuity managing content and maintaining updates to the Floodmar website hub. And they recently moved to a faster server, so go Hub team. If you would like to join an existing action team, there is an email that you can reach out to. Megan, this is probably the best place for people to do it. Cool. And I am going to give you permission to pull out your phones if you would like to navigate to the floodmar.org website. That is where you can find more information about all of these action teams and what kind of work they're doing together. So I want to ask you guys to think about, is there anything new that surfaced? Obviously, I guess maybe a two-part question. Related to these already identified 6 topics, like what kinds of new dimensions might the network want to consider as they're continuing to advance the goals of each of these action teams? Anything there that these existing groups want to go into? Is there anything new that surfaced during the forum that you'd like to work on together in an action team? And I think we have a minute or two for questions, or
is there a new action team in the room? Wouldn't surprise me. How about new members of an old action team? Raises of hands? Oh, a suggestion. Camera is going to create an action team and then, hang on, I'm coming. We got the online folks.
Thanks. So we have on the wall a number of next big things ideas. So I think a good next step would be first looking at those, see if any of those naturally fall into one of the 6 existing action teams, and maybe giving that to the action team and seeing if they want to take that up. And then those that don't, maybe we send out a survey to the Floodmar network saying, here are the 6 action teams now, and then these are some big ideas. Would you be interested in working on an action team around one of those?
That is a great suggestion and not terribly dissimilar from what I'm about to talk about.
Yeah, I was going to say, and maybe part of this is Mike was up next. We have 2 more components left in the day, which is I'm going to pass to Mike, who's going to kind of reflect back on everything on the sticky notes related to the next big thing that you guys have been adding over the last day and a half. And then we have a closing speaker that's going to wrap everything up.
Should we just do that, Megan? Oh. Remember, this is a give and get, so.
I know. I'm involved a lot of this myself on the flood side. Whether you like it or not, now is the time for regulatory reform, both at federal level and the state level. So I am not at all trying to dismantle things that are near and dear to our hearts. I'm trying to propose that now is the time. If there are obstacles that you previously thought were immobile, they may not be immobile right now. And now is the time to strike and to do it smartly and sensitively, but it can be done. I'm doing this with the Clean Water Act right now. We're doing it in other places, not to destroy things and to lose protections, but to get stuff done. And I'm willing to participate. I don't know nearly as much about water rights and other things that you guys are dealing with as I do with flood policy and law, but I'm willing to participate because I believe in it, so.
Thanks, Mark. The only correction I'd make is that you kept saying you, but you meant we, because you're one of us now. The other thing I would say is something that I have said for years, sorry, I just bumped into a few people, is, in a biological context, the idea of regulation, like our bodies regulate, biological systems regulate. We both regulate not too fast and not too slow, not too hot and not too cold. How amazing would it be if our regulatory structure was both, let's not hurt things by doing the wrong thing, but let's not hurt things by doing nothing either. That's transformative, yeah. The social scientist gets to say stuff like that. Is that segue? Okay. All right. Well, yeah, thanks, Marisa. So one of the things on your table is this 2-pager about Scott Valley, a snapshot story, a Floodmar snapshot story. And this document got put together by supporting team members of the Floodmar network. The way your project could get a fact sheet put together by supporting team members funded by someone else is to put a purple piece of paper over there before you leave. So if you've got a project that you think you would love to have a document like this that could help tell the Floodmar story, but also tell your project story, the way to get help from someone else funded elsewhere is to put your idea over there. So don't miss that opportunity before you go, because there's one, so they're gonna get help. If there's more than one, they'll get help too. Okay, so I have the good fortune of being able to look at all the work that the groups yesterday did. There's both the next big idea Post-it notes over there, and then there's the blue pages. Those of you here yesterday did blue pages. And it is an exciting list, but actually very short, and I suspect will not be a surprise to any of you. There's tons of cool ideas, very specific, very focused ideas. But in general, what do you think is the #1 thing that people suggest needs to happen next? Funding, yes, without a doubt. And there's multiple elements of that. There's both like, we need more grant funding, we need more public money, we need private money, we need incentive charges, fees. There's lots of variety to the funding question, but how to pay for it is far and away the thing that most people were reflecting on. And I suppose that's not a surprise. The next most common thing that we're being talked about is how to align with the next orbit of managers is the way I'm framing it. And so that is Army Corps of Engineers, that is flood managers, that is the folks that operate or manage some element that Floodmar needs to be successful that haven't been central to the discussion yet. And for the years that I've been involved with the Floodmar effort, this has really been MAR. The MAR has had most of the attention and the flood has had less. And we're starting to see more flood showing up, which is phenomenal. But this next orbit of people that need to be involved was the next sort of thing that we heard the most about in the various contributions. And so that's like the next orbit of managers. The next thing we saw the most feedback about is the next orbit of partners. So these are people who would actually do something, and that is irrigation agencies, landowners, small and large, even folks that are looking to manage conservation land for habitat, like the next orbit of people who actually manage the landscape who could do this. And then the fourth thing that really showed up as a high point is both deploying the new tools that have been made, and that's from the watershed studies by the state and all the other things we've been hearing about this week, using the tools that have been built, and then very quickly, what is the next set of tools that needs to be made? And so that's sort of the fourth thing that we saw the most. And all of this, those of you who are thinking back to what you wrote, you gave us way more detail than I summarized in those 4 points. But those 4 points really summarizes like where everyone's thinking, which I think is really great to sort of see what the next steps are. And to Kamyar's point, some of that is the next step of stuff we've been doing already. Some of that is the next new thing that hasn't been tackled yet. And as those of us that are helping like build the summary of this event and start writing it all down, we're gonna really extract way more detail than I was able to do at the hotel bar last night from all of this. But it's been a really exciting conference, and I hope that summary rings true to everyone who contributed something to what's on the wall. We're not done. If you have more big ideas, you haven't gotten to do that yet, there's time to put a Post-it note there. There's time to put a purple slip there. It'll help us build the great outcomes beyond what everyone here earned from giving to each other and getting from each other. We're going to be able to write all this stuff down and have a really great summary to follow up and sort of carry forward what everyone here accomplished together. Okay, so that's the end of my summary, and I think I'm handing it to you. All right?
So I love the image of the head exploding, Marisa, because I just want to say, wow. I just think it's been an incredible 2 days. So much information, so much amazing work that's been happening. We talk about accelerating flood-mar and accelerating recharge, and you can just feel in the room just the acceleration of all the work and the tools and the ideas and the information. So it's wow, is my first comment. I want to thank everyone for coming, both those that are in the room and also those of you that are online to this forum, and thank you for all you're doing to advance flood-mar. And I think we need to give a special thanks to Megan for designing the day. She did everything. She designed the day, she herded cats, she arranged logistics, and just being such a positive and consistent presence. It's a great support for all of us. And I also want to thank the organizing committee that worked with Megan, and to all the speakers and the moderators, and to Mike and to Marisa. Great work. I think it's been just a fantastic fifth flood-mar forum. So I'm Ashley Boren. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the CEO of Sustainable Conservation, and I'm honored to actually be the last speaker, so truly honored to be giving the closing remarks today. And it's fitting because when I realized I was going to do this, I was remembering that I actually did the closing remarks for the first ever forum. It wasn't flood-mar at that time, it was a recharge forum that DWR, led by CAMYAR, and the State Board of Food and Agriculture put on, where Don Cameron and I was serving at the time. And it was just a great first forum, and one of the moments I distinctly remember, CAMYAR, was you telling the entire group that this flood-mar, which was not flood-mar yet, but this idea of integrating flood and recharge was our moonshot. That it was an ambitious and audacious vision, but that it was possible. And here we are, 8 years later, and everyone in this room, online, and others are making it happen. So I think that's pretty remarkable. I thought what I would do is just do a very high flyover over the past 2 days. Those of you who've been watching me, I've been kind of taking notes for this. So we started out with Mike Antos providing us with a great history of flood-mar and the network and setting the context for where we are today. We then had, I'm going to change some of the titles, I think we had the GOATs of groundwater and recharge in our next panel, and that was CAMYAR, Ellen, Daniel, and Graham, and they shared their paths, their wisdom, and what they are most proud of with us. And that was such a rich conversation that I'm not going to be able to do justice to it, but a few highlights I noted. First off, I didn't know it was Jenny Marr who came up with the term flood-mar, so I'm really happy to know that. Thank you, Jenny. Ellen sharing her secret sauce about being willing to accept magical thinking, which I think we can tie back to CAMYAR's moonshot idea, and then also being badass about the data and what will work. And we've heard such good work on data over the past 2 days. Daniel really emphasized the importance of the bottom-up approach and really listening to farmers, to irrigation districts, and others to figure out what will work. And then the incredible knowledge Graham has brought to the field that we're all building off of, and his role inspiring students to pursue their passions and giving them the freedom to think and to work creatively. And also just a reminder that California is indeed the best place to work on water because we have so much going on, and I couldn't agree more. And then CAMYAR's hope for the future, that we have more networks and bottom-up co-management of watersheds. So all of them talked about the importance and being proud of the people they work with and the collaboration, the people they've inspired, which is really what the flood-mar network is all about. Then we got to hear from what I would call the trailblazers, and those were the folks who have been practicing flood-mar in some cases for a really long time, and we just had not called it that. So Adam Hutchinson from Orange County Water District, where they've been doing aquifer recharge for 90 years, the geriatric rechargers. I love that term. Bill Stretch from Fresno ID, who they've practiced conjunctive water use since they formed in 1920 and constructed their first recharge facility in 1971. And then, of course, Don Cameron, who a number of us call the godfather of on-farm recharge, who began experimenting with that technique in 82, 83. And key advice and takeaways that those three had were, the importance of being opportunistic, really looking at the landscape and what's available to work with. There are opportunities to increase the pie, so this kind of brings that abundance mentality to our work instead of scarcity. Let's think about increasing that pie. Building trust among the users, the idea that floodwater is not free. There are costs to the landowner or whoever's going to do that recharge. And then another thing I learned in the last few days was that recharge can help with nematodes. I didn't know that, so that was great. Then we had our more recent practitioners in Rich Gemperle, Stephanie Anagson, Laura Foglia, and Jordan Navartas, and excuse me if I've mispronounced your name. With Rich, we got to hear from a hydrogeologist farmer, which is perfect if you're going to be promoting recharge and floodmar, and he had 3 levels of approaches he talked to us about. We learned about Dunnigan Water District's on-the-ground trials, like recharging on ephemeral streams, testing reverse tile drains, pursuing multi-benefit opportunities like recharging on rice fields to benefit shorebirds. And we heard from Stephanie and Laura about the importance of sticking with it to get the policy right and legal, and to win over other stakeholders. Our state representatives from DWR and the state board talked about the state of the recharge state, reviewed all the drivers for recharge, our improved data and understanding, the evolution of the water board permitting, which needs to continue to evolve, and then the risk framework that the board is starting to think about and develop as they think about recharge and water quality. Catherine, Meredith, and Graham shared some tools that are available to help promote recharge, and I said this to Catherine earlier. It's just, I'm amazed at how quickly DWR and others have taken the data and are really developing these incredibly useful tools for helping promote. And Graham, I liked your comment, your reflection that you reminded us that 11 years ago, well data was proprietary, so the state was famous for its ignorance, and look how far we've come with all of what we saw demonstrated and shared with us. And then we ended yesterday with some on-the-ground groundwater sustainability plan and integrating planning and implementation by Eric, Nick, and Jacob. They talked about some common misconceptions, like the idea that diverting for recharge being diametrically opposed to environmental flows, and that's not quite true. Also, the idea of landowners or farmers being opposed, diametrically opposed in their interest to communities, also not true. So misconceptions that we can correct. And then Michael stepped in to do the close in Glenn Lowe's absence to stress the importance of the network, which I want to echo. And then today we started out with the very important and very complex topic of water quality with Kaya, Emily, Sarah, and Peter. And Kaya really helped us remember the importance of water quality for disadvantaged communities and domestic wells, many of which currently suffer from poor water quality in the Central Valley and the Central Coast. And so really the importance of doing recharge with those communities' priorities in mind. And then Emily and Peter just did a great job of, Emily and then Peter did a great job of channeling Scott, really illuminated all the reasons that understanding water quality and recharge is so complex and challenging. Sarah shared what the Water Quality and Recharge TAC is attempting to do so that we can provide guidance, even in the absence of perfect information, of how to best site and do recharge so that we're protecting water quality and ideally improving it over time. And then there was just a fantastic Q&A discussion that followed that presentation, which I think really illuminated how valuable this Floodmar network is, because we're bringing lots of different perspectives and ideas to help address an emerging issue that we're all trying to figure out. And so it's definitely a case where more minds are better than few minds, and so it's going to be really important in charting the path forward. And then we had a panel on harnessing extremes. Mike Anderson, our state climatologist, set the stage of what we've already been seeing, since we are indeed experiencing the consequences of a warming world, and what we should expect, which is that the challenges are going to intensify. So we need the right tools and the right actions so we can be okay and adapt to climate change, and partnerships, communication, collaboration, and coordination are all going to be critical. Mike Merzwa of DWR's flood operations shared how the state prepares and responds to flood emergencies and the new tools that they're developing to help people prepare emergency flood diversion plans. Christine from GEI shared an important developing tool in the Central Valley FloodMar dashboard. And then Mark, with that great example of a multi-benefit flood protection project in the Pajaro, so we could really see something on the ground tangibly. 3 great power talks by Jason, Janice, and Geronimo. And then a great panel on thinking big, FloodMar at scale. And the theme of that panel really struck me was preparation. You know, we heard from Aaron from TID, whose district believes in leading and preparing and not letting disasters happen. And it's in fact that leading and preparing that was enabled them to take such advantage of 2023 and recharge just a tremendous amount of water. And Kitty also described all the programs that Westlands has put in place and the preparing they did so that they could really take advantage of 2023 and recharge a tremendous amount of groundwater. And then we pivoted slightly to the work DWR and NACWA is doing to prepare for FloodMar and to get more scale. DWR through the watershed studies and NACWA through promoting and advocating for this idea of water on the landscape and specifically what they can do on the west side of the Sacramento Valley. And then the last panel was, you know, the all-important topic of incentives and funding by Rochelle, Spencer, and Marie. So, you know, coming back to the moonshot, it is, the moonshot is really the process of building what's needed for truly kind of transformational change of how we manage water and certain floodwater and groundwater in California. And this network, I think, is just key to both the progress we have made and all the critical work that remains to be done, much of which Mike just outlined through the input you all provided. So we are really fortunate in the network to have folks that have both the hard skills and the soft skills. So the hard scientific data skills, but also the soft skills of how we build those partnerships, change behavior, and both of those are essential. So with that, I just want to close and thank you all again for being here. Thank you for all you've already done, and thank you for all you're gonna do going forward. It's gonna take tremendous partnerships and collaborations to really achieve this moonshot. So, thank you.
Amazing work, everyone. Thank you. It's Friday, right? Happy Friday. That's it. So I'm going to follow up with the panelists, get permission to share PowerPoints. You can expect recording sometime in 2026. You got all the QR codes. You got my email. You know how to find us. And hopefully now you know how to find each other. You're awesome. Thank you.